Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending Dashboard Dive, New Close, All Membership. Thank you again for attending. Your instructors for today are Thomas Hull and Brandon Shaw. We expect this class to last about 60 minutes. As you join us today, all phones are placed on mute to eliminate background noise and interruptions. To facilitate answering questions you have during the broadcast, we use the chat feature. You can find the chat feature by hovering over the bottom of the presentation screen. You should then see the toolbar with a series of icons. Click the one that says chat, then select to presenter and type your question. Questions may be sent at any time, and we'll be stopping throughout the broadcast to answer any of these questions. We appreciate your attendance today. With that, I'll turn it over to Thomas and Brandon to get started. Enjoy the presentation.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again on one of our weekly dashboard dives. Hopefully you've kind of penciled out some time every Thursday to spend with us as we go through these dashboards and look at some of the CU-based tools that we like to advertise and promote and try to encourage the use of. Yesterday, or last week rather, we discussed tool 552, the new closed all accounts dashboard. And today we have a very similar dashboard. This is the new closed all membership dashboard. They work very similar to one another, and they both offer some great value.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're familiar with various dashboards throughout CU base, that's a common theme you might see as far as the functionality and some of the appearances of the dashboards go. But when you actually look at the detail, you'll see that various different data sets are used, and ultimately we're telling a whole different story, right? So as minor as it might sound, as memberships compared to accounts, it's a completely different story. But if you were able to join last week and see that dashboard, you're going to see that the layout of it is very similar. So as far as a functionality standpoint goes, it should be relatively easier to pick up if you do have some experience with that all accounts dashboard. But today we will be discussing that memberships, and I think with that we'll go ahead and jump into the session.
Yeah. So this dashboard is really designed to ask a series of questions, all geared towards changes in the members that you serve. You know, how many new members joined my credit union this month, versus last month. And then maybe the negative side, how many members chose to end their relationship with my credit union. So that line of thinking, and then all the subtopics, looking at that by branch, and the different ways to slice and dice those same questions. But the core of this is answering the question: what members joined the credit union versus what members left the credit union. So similar to a lot of our dashboards, the top third of the screen or so is your filtering options. And this specific dashboard, once you launch the tool, you do have a blank screen. And that's because we haven't entered a date range yet. The first question we'd ask ourselves is, what scope, what time period do we want to look at? So I'm going to enter the month of May. And I am going to take a moment and clarify that we are in a testing environment. This dashboard does have account numbers, which you can see on the side. So for security reasons, we are using our testing database here. And I've got one more disclaimer, and I saw this earlier today. I was looking at it, poking around, and we have Brownell Bolton here. It has opened a few memberships that are testing environment.
Popular person.
This is our MOP and MAP testing. We have new functionality for online membership opening. You'll notice all of these employee ID 96. This is some testing we're doing with the mobile app, and the ability for members to enroll for membership and actually create a membership in a completely digital environment. So there's a lot of testing we're doing. It is going to store our data, but the value and the foundation is there. Hopefully you're able to follow along on your own CU-based session with your own credit union data, and will not have some of the limitations that we have of this testing environment.
Yes, absolutely. And then after we insert that date and we get our initial data set, there are other filters like Thomas alluded to earlier. Working over to our right, we do have the option of status. When we select status, I believe the two options that we have are either open or closed. What that's referring to is was the account open or closed during that particular time frame that you picked out. Now, I will say that both of those functions might have happened within the same time range. So, for example, if Bolton, one of these mini accounts, created the account, since May 1st, and then let's say closed it down on May 20th, you would see in that date close column down here, May 20th. So it would show both of those. But what that specific filter is referencing is that time frame. I know quite often, and again, with the test data, we might not get too many of these, depending on why they were opened up. Yeah, so we're still not hitting one, but you might see it quite often within one of your credit union libraries. Working over to the next one is gender. That just has the 3 options. I believe it's both male or female. So you can filter down by that. We also have employee IDs. So that's associated with the membership account as well. So if you can go in there and kind of take a look, employee performance is always a hot ticket item to talk about, and various different dashboards throughout CU Base kind of make measuring employee performance much easier just because of the filters. We still have account number, so you can insert account number if you're looking for something specific. And then also if you're not really sure specifically what it is, you do have some other ones that have names start with and name contains. So if you know how the name begins, you want to use that first one. And if you have kind of an idea of what the name may contain in it, you do have that more of a wildcard function there. And then lastly, member designation. So you can filter down on those as well. Essentially, those are all the various different filters that we have. I do think that they do a good job of letting you slice and dice the data without kind of overwhelming on how many options that are available. Sometimes the more filtering is beneficial from narrowing down to the exact picture that you want, but at the same time, it can be a little overwhelming if you're just paging through screens of filters. So a nice little feature about this dashboard.
Yep. No, you had made comments on the name searches here, and I think that's a perfect example of ways to use this dashboard to perform member service. If you're trying to research the date a account was opened or closed and, they're servicing the member there in front of you, you could open up this date range to see a much wider periods of time, put in a last name, and, you could very quickly see opening, close dates, maybe employee IDs associated with who maybe close the account and so forth. So there definitely is some member service opportunity here, and you can see that down in the bottom as well. So if we were to select one specific member record, we're going to pick on Jam Jimmy here. You'll notice these buttons in the bottom do populate. You are able to click these now once you select a specific member. You might want to, see their accounts. You might want to get more information about this specific member, so you are able to jump right into inquiry mode. That will be a direct link into just inquiry within CU Base to see their full profile and all of their account breakdown. We also have the ability to look at credit reports and new account checklists. We have several credit unions that use this as part of their new account workflow, where you can develop checklists. Did we scan their ID? Do we have a signature card, and so forth. You can use this to assist with some audit functions as well. If you want to operationalize this dashboard, looking at it every month or every week, and new members and confirming that the appropriate workflows have been completed. We also have household ability for anyone who actively uses their household database, and you link accounts together based on addresses and so forth, husband and wife, spouses, and children and so forth. You do have a direct link to review Jam Jimmy's entire household in this case. You could look and see what other relationships you know about. And then finally, the results of their ID verification scan is also directly available here. So some really good data, not only from member service perspectives, also potentially auditing workflows, making sure that you're crossing all your T's and dotting your I's when it comes to a new member checklist.
Yeah, and I guess I've never visioned it as a member service dashboard, but that's great feedback. I think that's a great way to approach this. It's very user friendly. It does allow you to kind of get some quick big picture items about the member, and then the direct link to the inquiry. All that stuff is great information. I will point out that if the status for these accounts are closed, so if you're looking at closed accounts and you do that inquiry, it's going to take you to the closed membership inquiry. But nonetheless, you'll just see a couple little variations throughout the dashboard as you switch back and forth between open and closed. Another item when it comes to dashboards is we typically ask some sort of questions when we come into these dashboards. The ASAP approach, I'm sure everyone's heard of that by now. But one of the questions that kind of pop out to me and what I've utilized this dashboard for in the past is something as simple as, out of all the accounts that we've opened up out of this time period, how many are still open? And adversely, how many are still closed? The summary box up in the top right-hand corner, that light blue, you'll see light blue boxes throughout various different CU-based dashboards, but essentially what they do is some sort of summary stats. And in this case, if we have the date range that we currently have and the filters that we currently have, we're just saying from January 1st to May 31st, how many accounts were open, and we're generating 4,800 accounts. And then, as I mentioned earlier within the session, if they open and have since closed during that time period, they get that date closed, and that percentage is actually calculated right there. So back to that question that I originally asked of, since this time period, how many have opened and closed their account? Quickly, we're able to get that percentage right off the bat, just with the summary window. So just an item I do like to point out with this dashboard is to utilize that and kind of see what sort of questions may be beneficial to you and your credit union in regards to the dashboard.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to clarify, this is probably the most common question that I've gotten on this dashboard, or, a point of confusion, is just because we do not have any closed accounts here, we've got 0, does not mean that no memberships closed during that time period. So this filter, what this dashboard is doing right now, is it is asking the question, show me all memberships that opened a new membership, new members joining the credit union within this time period. That's ultimately what we're looking for, is members who join the credit union within that time period. This closed field is kind of an afterthought, and now we're saying of the members who joined since January 1st, how many have already closed their membership? So there could be members that have been with you for 10 years that are outside of the results of this dashboard. It's a long-term member who did close within this time period, but they're not being captured because they did not open their account within that time period. So if we switch this, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers, I'm hoping we've got an example or two. So if I switch this to closed, we're now asking a completely different question. We don't care when the account was opened. We're now saying what accounts closed between January and May. So we're going to rerun that, and of course, I always make that mistake in this dashboard. Highlighted. When a record is highlighted and you hit enter like I did, it jumps right into an inquiry. So we're going to try that again. I've got my date field still in there closed, and we're going to try to repopulate this dashboard. Still not getting any. We will go out a couple of years. I do want to show you that record. And we do not close many accounts in the they kind of build up database here. Let's try this, beginning of time. So the point being, you are able to go back as far as you want. You can see I just ran this dashboard with a year of January 1st of 1900, just kind of a beginning of time type of feel. And you can see now we are identifying any membership that was closed at any time that the credit union ever opened through May.
Absolutely. Yep. So it all comes back to just that that status filter, and understand that that's kind of the driving point behind this in correlation with those dates. So that's what it's looking at first. It's just saying look for ones with that status during that time frame. Mm-hmm. And if it happens to fall into both categories, it does, but it is being driven by that status filter. Yeah.
So this dashboard has a built-in analysis feature, which I think is some of the best value add that it has to offer. So let's jump in there and see what we have. Right off the bat, we're being asked a question: do we want to use current files or end-of-month files? And that really just goes back to what is your ultimate goal, and what specific question are you trying to answer? The analysis screen does get into some product and service participation information. And so, for example, right now we're kind of getting late in the month of June, looking at May activity, or we're wondering, do we want to know their product and service participation as of May 31st, which would reconcile with the kind of analysis that we're doing, or do we want to look at their balances as of today, what's their checking account today versus their checking account as of the end of May? So board reporting and so forth, you probably want to use end-of-month files. If you're looking for information as of today or a project for today, current files probably make more sense. But here we have 5 different analytical pages that provide insights into the segment that we're looking at. So again, it's always important to keep in the back of your mind what members we're looking at. So here we're looking at members who joined the credit union in the month of May, and we do have that giant block of that one person who opened apparently about 1,400 memberships. So we do have some distorted data here, but hopefully you're following along and you can see your own information, have a nice age group. Again, we're asking the question, what type of age distribution, is being, am I drawing in? What types of members am I attracting? Am I marketing? Who's responding to my marketing campaigns and so forth? Getting a feel for the age distribution within the membership. Moving on to page 2, we can see some more information specific to account opening. What day of the week was the account opened on? What month? Here, of course, we're looking at just May data. So we have got 100% penetration here. We could run this for the fiscal year and see the ebbs and flows of new members joining the credit union and what months seem to be your most active when it comes to a new membership. Same type of thing with quarters, just a little bit less granular. Member designations, again, you might have that coded out pretty detailed and have many different designations. This will give you a good breakdown of what types of members are joining. Products and services per member are scored as part of tiered servicing, which is deactivated in our testing credit union. There's just not enough activity for tiered services to run. So we don't have those figures here, but you should see some product and service stats on your own dashboard, and then gender breakdown as well.
Another item to point out here, this page is just fine too. If you're not familiar with them yet, our graphs are on CU-based as well. So you'll see various different toggles. If you look at the tabs up on the left where it says zip codes and branches, as you go through the various different screens, you may have some graphs included in some of these. This particular one is just showing the individual groups. So if you do want to just segment into one of those groups, you can definitely do that as well. Maybe you're print screening these for various different reasons. You can utilize those in order to get it a little bit more cleaner. But moving forward here, we have zip codes. Don't forget the toggle zip codes button down on the bottom here so that you can actually populate the last couple digits. That's another great way to kind of identify, okay, we have this member segment and that opened up accounts between this date range. Where do these individuals tend to live at? So having those zip codes is a great way. Branches, kind of along the same mindset. If you have multiple different branches, what branches are they opening them up at? But then we can just move on over to employees and all the way through. So this kind of just gives you a little bit more information about the membership as a whole. Do keep in mind that if you have your status changed to closed, it's a whole different story, right? So what are these employees that are closing these accounts? What sort of tier levels are they falling in? What's the reasons associated with it? All that good jazz. So just the simple status change can tell a totally different story with it. So we'll go ahead and we also have SED groups on here as well. What's that? Page 4, I think this is probably the most useful one in my own eyes anyhow, but this essentially breaks down the users and the non-users of various different products that you have. So out of this member segment, how many are users of online banking and how many are not. In this case, 99.4% of the users are not signed up for online banking. Again, the test data kind of skews that. Same thing with mobile test banking and so forth. So as you go ahead and you select these and you kind of get like a date range that you want to check out more, and you kind of have it down to the perfect one that you want, and you go through these screens, you're going to get plenty of data and action items off of these screens. So right away you can identify needs that these members may have.
Yeah. One of the favorites I like to point out, right in the middle here, we have 2 rows, members with a checking account, and then members with a ATM or debit card. I always like to compare these 2 rows to see maybe some opportunities to issue some new cards, get some more interchange revenue going. I think it's a great comparison to look at those 2, and it could be a workflow, a new account, a workflow process, a training opportunity to try to increase that penetration rate. So we've got one more page, and this is that this is really where the end of month files make the biggest impact. This is where you would see either account balances as of today or account balances as of end of month based on that first election. But here, just from a very high level, no specific products are included here, but just within this audience, about 1,400 people, how many active loans are there, lines of credit, IRA certificates, just your primary application types are being displayed here, but some very good insights. There is the ability to export any of this information using one of these 3 links. The PDF button does require a license that must be purchased through client services, but the Excel and CSV export option should work for you without any additional requirements needed for those to work. So a lot of good insights in here, and like Brandon said, we're looking at the new members joining the credit union side, but you redo this entire analysis with closed members, it's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother focal point of the value that you might see within the analysis screens.
Absolutely, and I do love the concept of using this as kind of a workflow, and just kind of envisioning it. Well, how would it look if we a month afterwards we open up everyone that was 30 days ago, and we kind of trend out and see what it is that they have going on today. We can go through the analysis screens and make sure that we're getting a good penetration rate on the various different products and services, and we can quickly identify maybe some classes of individuals that need to get a little bit of communication on behalf of us, or just items like that. So with the dashboards, we do often urge to utilize them in kind of a workflow way, because it does help improve various different items and really shed some light on some interesting concepts that you might otherwise miss.
Yep, it certainly does. I do want to show you, this is kind of one trick that, I don't know exactly who showed me this, but you are able to, I changed this date to, again, kind of a beginning of time date, which I think 1/1 of 1900 is a good date to use. And again, I just kept the through May 31st. So this type of approach, we're looking at members who opened their account kind of from the beginning of time through May 31st. We can get a feel for kind of the total relationships that you have. So a total of 38,000 members have kind of gone through the credit union, and roughly 20% have closed, 7,500 have closed. So I think this is a great stat, just that alone, knowing how many relationships have kind of flown through the credit union, how many you've retained versus how many have left. I think that's a nice view. And, it does give you some more insights. Going through the analysis screens again with such a large audience, you can kind of start to analyze, your entire field of membership with this type of approach. You do want to be a little bit careful because you have so many closed accounts. So you're, like that last screen where you're looking at checking account and savings account data gets a little skewed, but your gender breakdowns and age breakdowns, there definitely is some value in this type of view within this dashboard. So we always like to encourage action. That's really our goal of these dashboards, is to show you information, to answer your questions, maybe get the wheels turning, get some thoughts going, and then inspire you to take action on what you see. And so this dashboard is no exception. We've got our export member connect options down here. So you could very easily export a list of members who joined last month and turn that into a mailing list. You know, it's probably good practice to communicate with these new members and, you know, welcome them to the credit union. You might have some documentation that you want to ship to them. This would be an excellent way to get those lists of members that might need that communication from you.
Absolutely, yeah, just part of that workflow and coming in here and inserting date ranges, exporting the members, and just simply sending them an email or getting that mailing list and sending them a thank you card, something along those lines. This dashboard is a quick and easy way to get those items done.
Yeah. So for anyone who wasn't here last week, tool 552, which was right above this is tool 553, is a similar dashboard, but it focuses on suffix accounts. So how many loans were opened last month? How many checking accounts were opened last month? If you like what you see here, definitely check out 552 as a you know, similar but very different data set that can answer some of that suffix level details about what products are coming in, what products are closing within your credit union. Some good value here. We hope you get out there and use it.
Yep, absolutely. And if you do check out the accounts one, just remember the difference between the two, because you're going to go in there and it's going to look very similar. So just go in and understand which one you're looking at, understand one's account, one's memberships. But I think when you do utilize them together, you can get a lot of value out of them. So again, this dashboard may seem like a relatively simple one, but that doesn't mean it's any less powerful. A lot of value here, a lot of insight that you can gather, and definitely some action items to take off it. So feel free to go ahead and play around. If you have any sort of questions that come up with the dashboard or even the accounts dashboard, definitely feel free to reach out to us and let us know. Again, we want to just thank everyone for coming to today's dashboard dive, and we're going to hang out here on the line for a little bit. If anybody has any sort of questions, feel free to send them through. But otherwise, we just want to thank you for coming, and we appreciate you showing up, and we'll be here again next Thursday.
No, I was just going to make that comment. Next week is our leadership conference. So once a year we've got leadership, so there will be no dashboard dive on Thursday, this approaching Thursday, because of our leadership conference. But the following week, I think it's July 5th, I believe, will be our next session. So hopefully you can join us there. And then study.cuanswers.com will have a listing of all of our upcoming courses for reference. So yeah, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.